The processing unit at the Orion Temporal Refinements Facility began to resonate with an internal beat, a sound entirely foreign to its operational parameters. If you enjoyed documentary-style horror case files, subscribe to Whispers in the Dark. This incident occurred deep within the remote subterranean complex dedicated to fabricating exotic alloys. Employees handled materials known for their unusual properties, unaware of the microscopic crystalline contamination they slowly imparted. A contamination that restructured biological matter into the machinery itself. The Orion Temporal Refinements Facility maintained rigorous operational protocols. Beneath the surface, deep within the subterranean complex, Unit 73 Delta Processing Crucible handled the volatile temporal alloys that formed the core of the company's research. Operations on the evening shift were routine for shift supervisor Kaylin Fjord and process technician Ilara Vol. Their duties involved monitoring atmospheric regulators and flux pressure within the crucible chamber. The air was cool and circulated, heavy with the scent of ionized air and trace elements unique to the refined chronoton. Technician Vol was performing a standard calibration check on the primary thermal conduit, designated Conduit M9. This conduit was a massive, insulated channel running along the main processing wall, a steel behemoth responsible for stabilizing the core reactions. Her instruments registered a slight, persistent tremor. It was not a vibration from the operational machinery, which hummed at a specific, consistent frequency. This tremor was distinct, a low thrum that seemed to emanate from within the solid concrete and reinforced steel of conduit M9 itself. Vol initially attributed it to localized structural fatigue or a miscalibrated sensor. She logged a minor irregularity report and initiated a secondary diagnostic sweep, expecting to find an internal stress fracture or a loose bracket. The thrum persisted, however, gradually increasing in rhythm. It was subtle at first, barely registering on the facility's seismic monitors, which were calibrated to filter out ambient operational noise. Vol pressed her palm against the cool metal of conduit M9. The thrumming resonated through her hand, a distinct, rhythmic pulse. It felt organic, like a faint, rapid heartbeat embedded within the inert structure. This sensation contradicted all known material science for high-grade industrial alloys and reinforced concrete. Supervisor Fjord was alerted to Vol's persistent anomaly readings. His console flagged an escalating, unidentifiable vibrational signature originating from Unit 73 Delta's primary conduit. He moved to Vol's position, carrying a portable resonance analyzer. The device, designed for detecting minute structural anomalies, registered a consistent, low-frequency pulse. It was indeed emanating from the concrete seam where conduit M9 met the main support pillar. The analyzer's display showed a repeating waveform, unnervingly similar to a biological rhythm, at approximately 70 beats per minute. Fjord confirmed the readings, then ran his hand along the cold steel. He felt the pulse, undeniable and inexplicable. "Run a full spectral analysis," Fjord ordered, his voice devoid of any undue alarm, adhering strictly to protocol.
cross-reference it with geological data and internal structural integrity logs. Check for any dormant seismic activity or deep earth harmonics. There was no precedent for such a localized rhythmic vibration within a solid, inert structure designed to contain temporal energy. The facility was deep enough to be shielded from most surface disturbances. Ilara Vol initiated the requested diagnostics. The facility's central monitoring system registered the anomaly as a structural resonance event, escalating its priority. The pulse within conduit M9 grew incrementally stronger. The low thrumming began to manifest audibly within the immediate vicinity of the crucible chamber. It was a faint, regular bass tone, audible over the ambient hum of the processing unit. The rhythmic sound itself was not loud, but its persistence and unnatural source created a growing tension. It was a sound that should not exist. It was the sound of something alive within the dead infrastructure. Fjord directed Vol to power down the adjacent secondary alloy feeder, hoping to isolate the source by eliminating potential mechanical interference. The rhythmic thrumming continued unabated, completely independent of the feeder's operational state. The silence from the deactivated machinery only made the persistent internal pulse within conduit M9 more pronounced, more disturbing. It now vibrated with a distinct, unsettling energy, a low, steady thrum that seemed to fill the very air around the conduit. The entire section of the conduit began to subtly warm to the touch, another impossible physical change. The external temperature sensors, previously calibrated for ambient conditions, now registered a rise of several degrees Celsius along the conduit's outer casing, despite the internal processing temperatures remaining within their normal contained parameters. This thermal change had no known mechanical or physical explanation. The energy was not being generated by the temporal alloys within, nor by any component of the processing unit itself. The pulse had transitioned from a mere curiosity to an active, inexplicable phenomenon. It was no longer a structural tremor. It had become an internal rhythm, a core beat emanating from the inert material itself. The initial objective observation gave way to a palpable sense of unease. The facility's automated diagnostic systems flagged multiple concurrent warnings: unexplained structural resonance, localized thermal anomaly, and biological signature detected, unidentified. The last warning caused Fjord to pause, a grim line forming on his face. Biological signature detection was a system reserved for biohazard containment breaches, not structural integrity issues.
Fjord's expression tightened as the biological signature detected warning flashed a persistent crimson. This was an alarm state reserved for highly specific, critical events, far beyond structural integrity concerns. His training mandated an immediate, systematic response to potential organic contamination. He commanded Vol to initiate a full-spectrum bioparticulate sweep of the chamber's atmosphere and to deploy contact bioanalyzers directly onto conduit M9's surface. He simultaneously logged a Level 3 contaminant alert, rerouting all active sensor data to the Central Facility Command, bypassing standard operational filters. The rhythmic thrumming continued its slow, steady increase, a deep vibration now perceptible through the very deck plating beneath their boots. Technician Vol affixed the bioanalyzers. The devices were designed to identify airborne pathogens, exotic fungal spores, or even minute cellular matter. They ran for several minutes. The atmospheric samples returned clear, indicating no known biological agents in the circulated air. However, the contact analyzers, pressed against the warming steel of conduit M9, displayed a complex, fluctuating energy signature. It was not cellular. It did not match any known microbial or viral profile. Instead, the readings depicted a highly ordered, crystalline energy matrix, resonating with a rhythmic pulse directly correlated to the vibration within the conduit. This matrix was stable, growing, and generating a distinct, low-frequency electromagnetic field that pulsed in synchronicity with the internal thrum. It was not life as they understood it, yet the system continued to flag it as a biological signature, unable to categorize the anomalous energy pattern otherwise. The thrumming intensified further, its resonance now causing a faint, high-frequency whine to emanate from the support struts adjacent to the conduit. The deep bass note of the internal pulse became more defined, more insistent, no longer merely an abstract vibration, but an audible, palpable beat. Fjord noted a new reading. Localized microfractures forming along the exterior concrete seam of conduit M9, expanding slowly with each rhythmic pulse. The fractures were not typical stress cracks. They propagated in intricate, geometric patterns, almost like veins or delicate filigree, darkening slightly with an unidentifiable residue. The conduit's surface temperature continued its steady, inexplicable climb. Fjord moved to the Unit 73 Delta primary control panel. His intention was to activate the emergency failsafe, initiating a complete power down and isolation of the processing crucible and its associated conduits. He accessed the system, inputting the override sequence. The console responded, displaying the command, but the automated sequence failed to initiate. An overlay message appeared. System conflict. Primary conduit M9 actively engaged. The message was cryptic, impossible. Conduit M9 was a passive transport channel, not an active component capable of engaging or disengaging processing. It had no internal power source, no independent operational capacity. Yet, the system insisted it was preventing a shutdown. Vol attempted a manual override from her auxiliary station. Her console screen flickered violently, then displayed a similar message overlaid with corrupted data streams. The rhythmic pulse emanating from conduit M9 surged dramatically following their failed attempts. The frequency increased and the intensity amplified, causing a low, guttural groan to reverberate from deep within the concrete structure. The floor began to vibrate, not just near the conduit, but across the entire processing chamber, a deep, pervasive tremor that rattled loose equipment. A faint, acrid odor, metallic and slightly organic, began to permeate the air, emanating directly from the growing cracks along conduit M9. The conduit itself was now radiating heat, almost visibly, the air directly above it shimmering slightly. Fjord watched the structural integrity readouts plummet, his professional calm struggling against the impossible reality. The conduit was not merely vibrating, it was actively resisting external control, growing warmer and causing localized damage.
The biological signature warning had now upgraded to structural integration confirmed, unidentifiable organic matrix. The implications were staggering. Whatever was inside conduit M9 was not simply present, it was becoming part of the structure, altering its fundamental properties and resisting any attempt to shut down the system. The Chrono Forge facility was not merely processing exotic alloys. Something within it was now processing itself.
The rhythmic pulse became overwhelming. The low groan from the concrete structure intensified into a grinding resonance that grated against the processing chamber's very foundation. Conduit M9's exterior surface, now visibly warped in sections, shed flakes of concrete and insulation, revealing a mesmerizing, intricate network of pulsating, luminescent crystalline veins beneath. These formations pulsed with an internal light, mimicking the beat, shimmering with faint internal sparks. The acrid, metallic organic scent thickened, becoming suffocating. Supervisor Fjord issued a facility-wide evacuation order, but the command system registered it as denied, system override by conduit M9. All external communications were simultaneously severed. Technician Vole frantically attempted to bypass the system lockouts. As she worked, her hand brushed against the console panel. The panel, normally inert, felt strangely warm, and a faint, rhythmic pulse resonated through its plastic casing, mirroring the beat from conduit M9. Her portable resonance analyzer, dropped moments before, now lay on the deck plating near the conduit, its screen flickering erratically. Then, the device's internal components visibly shifted, rearranging themselves into a miniature, pulsating crystalline cluster that mirrored the patterns emerging on conduit M9. The anomaly was no longer contained. The temperature in the chamber continued its precipitous rise. The air became thick with a strange, crystalline dust that settled on every surface, sparkling faintly. The rhythmic pulse now resonated with such force that minor structural elements within the chamber began to vibrate themselves into sympathetic resonance, producing a high-pitched, metallic shriek that pierced the air. Vole screamed, clutching her head, the noise unbearable. Fjord moved to assist her, but a sudden violent shudder racked the entire processing unit. Sections of conduit M9 exploded outwards with a muffled thump, scattering superheated crystalline fragments across the chamber. Through the breach, a vision materialized, not inert metal or concrete, but a labyrinthine tangle of pulsing, luminous, crystalline structures. They writhed and shifted, intertwining with the existing rebar and wiring, clearly organic in their chaotic growth, yet fundamentally inorganic in their composition. Amidst this horrifying growth, Fjord's environmental suit's internal sensor picked up a faint, residual biosignature. Human, barely detectable, but unmistakably present within the crystalline mass itself. It was not a contamination. It was an absorption, a transformation. The faint, rapid heartbeat embedded within the structure had found its host. The Chrono Forge was not only alive, it was assimilating. The breach in conduit M9 erupted with greater force. Shards of crystalline growth, pulsing with an inner light, sprayed across the chamber, impacting consoles and equipment. These fragments did not merely land, they immediately began to integrate, extending tendrils of luminous material into the metal and plastic surfaces. Technician Vole, overwhelmed by the sonic assault, staggered backwards, tripping over a discarded diagnostic tool. Before she could recover, a wave of the crystalline dust, now visibly shimmering in the air, washed over her. Her environmental suit's external sensors immediately registered a precipitous drop in atmospheric purity, followed by an impossible internal temperature spike within the suit itself. The pulse from conduit M9 now felt like a direct, percussive blow to the chest. Supervisor Fjord, his own suit integrity alarms blaring, moved towards Vole. He witnessed the crystalline dust adhering to her suit's visor, almost instantly forming intricate, glowing patterns. Her last recorded physiological readings on his comlink rapidly merged with the expanding crystalline energy profile emanating from conduit M9. The distinct human biosignature vanished, replaced by an identical, unidentified organic matrix reading, now encompassing her location. The anomaly was no longer abstract. It had claimed a direct host. The entire processing chamber convulsed. Deep structural supports groaned under an unbearable strain. The rhythmic thrumming intensified into a sustained, low-frequency hum that vibrated through the very bones of the subterranean complex. The embedded crystalline network, now visibly growing across the chamber's floor and walls, expanded with alarming speed. It enveloped deactivated machinery, consuming the metallic husks and reconfiguring them into pulsing, luminescent structures. Previously inert panels and conduits along the facility's extensive network began to glow faintly, developing their own internal rhythmic light. The very air grew heavy with the sweet, metallic organic scent, now mixed with the sharp tang of ozone. Fjord attempted to activate his personal emergency beacon, a last resort for total system failure and personnel extraction. The device, designed for autonomous signal transmission, activated momentarily, emitting a high-pitched whine. Then, like Vole's earlier equipment, its casing cracked, revealing miniature, rapidly forming crystalline structures within its circuitry. The beacon's light changed from a steady red to an erratic internal luminescence that mirrored the patterns consuming the chamber. The device ceased transmitting. All contact with external command was lost. The Chrono Forge had effectively sealed itself, not through a mechanical lockout, but through an internal, organic restructuring of its communication infrastructure. Automated fire suppression systems attempted to activate, discharging inert gases. The gases, however, made no impact. They simply diffused through the superheated air, contributing to a strange, almost shimmering haze. Thermal sensors across Unit 73 Delta flatlined, unable to process the unprecedented energy flux. The chamber lights, designed for industrial resilience, flickered erratically, their filaments glowing with an unnatural bluish tint, before succumbing to the overwhelming internal luminescence of the crystalline growth. The facility's primary temporal alloy processing crucible, Unit 73 Delta, began to resonate with the pervasive beat, its contained chronoton core now pulsing in perfect synchronicity
with the surrounding, rapidly growing crystalline network. The Chrono Forge was not merely consuming, it was transforming the facility into a singular, unified, living mechanism. Its gears were indeed becoming conscious. External response teams, dispatched after the sudden cessation of all facility transmissions, encountered an immediate structural collapse around the primary access tunnels leading to Orion temporal refinements. Seismic monitors registered a massive, localized subterranean event, initially attributed to geological instability. Emergency protocols for deep earth tremors were enacted. Repeated attempts to penetrate the sealed access points were met with inexplicable structural resistance, as if the very rock and reinforced earth had fused into an impenetrable barrier. No survivors were recovered. The official explanation for the loss of Orion Temporal Refinement's Unit 73 Delta was listed as a catastrophic chronoton cascade resulting from a critical containment breach leading to immediate, localized structural disintegration. This explanation, however, fails to account for the anomalous data recovered from atmospheric drones that briefly penetrated the perimeter before being destroyed. These drones registered a faint, rhythmic, low-frequency electromagnetic pulse emanating from deep within the Earth where the facility once stood. This pulse continues to be detected, sporadically, years after the incident, a lingering signature of an entity that should not exist. If you find these tales of industrial horror compelling, remember to subscribe to Whispers in the Dark for more case files.